I am now in conversation with the CEO of the company, Varun Berry, who's joining us to take us through the quarter and perhaps what we can expect going forward as well. Varun, thanks for joining us and taking the time out. At this point in time, there's been a lot of conjecture with respect to volumes growth for this particular quarter. I'm not sure where you stand with respect to giving out the volumes number, but can you at least give us an indication about where that stands? And the second part of my question is how does it look? How does volumes growth look as we move into the next couple of quarters?
Okay, so we've had, as we've spoken in the past quarters, we've had almost 4 or 5 quarters of double-digit volume growth. And this quarter we did fall into the high single-digit category, which I think is great. But yes, I definitely think that post-Diwali there was a little bit of a slowdown in the volume pickup. But I think that's normal because Diwali shifted from October to November. And after all the binging, people do tend to sort of take it easy as far as food and drinks are concerned. So I think, and I do think that in December and January we are seeing the volume growths coming back. So I think that was just a little period of time which that happened. But despite that, I think we've delivered very, very consistently over the last 24 quarters. We've delivered a quarter after quarter earnings as well as top line growths, which are very, very good. So we're very happy with the performance, and we are hoping that as we get into the final quarter of this financial year, things will become even better.
Right. Varun, speaking of the final quarter of this financial year, a lot of investors out there tend to draw a correlation with the elections and an increase in consumption. While that is true for many of the areas, how does it work out for biscuits? Does that also hold? Can you expect a considerable increase in volumes as far as this particular quarter goes as we move in?
No, so, yes, the election year is usually a year which spurs consumption. And, this year with the interim budget as well, there is going to be more money in the pockets of rural consumers. So we are hoping that, and we've got a huge rural push that we have been making for the last 5 years. In fact, our growths in rural have been anywhere from in the 20s or 30s. 20% or 30%, that kind of range. So we are hoping that this is only going to accelerate our rural growths. So I do think election year will be good for products like us.
Okay, Varun, in the last couple of quarters as well, what we've been talking about is distribution and some challenges that Britannia faces, particularly in the northern states. My question then is that if you guys are looking to expand, where have you guys reached specifically with challenges around those states, and what can we expect there? What are the updates here?
So a very good update in the Hindi states, as we call them. We've seen very good volume growths. We've seen very smart movements as far as our market share is concerned. So all of the Hindi states we've been making progress. Our growths are almost 1.7 times what they are nationally. So that's moving really well, and we are hoping that continues because that's giving us the strength to become, almost, it used to be in the Hindi states, our share used to be in single digits in some of the states. And now it's moving towards, closer towards the 20% share in these states. So things are looking good, and we hope that momentum continues.
Okay.
From our side, we are making sure that we put our best people there.
No, please go on. Yes.
Please go ahead. No, so we are putting our best people in there and making sure that we, put up all the efforts to drive distribution.
All right, then Varun, my final question is that we've seen considerable expansion in your gross margins as well, but in your press release you also suggest that there has been an ever so slight pickup in our input costs. In that case, where do we stand and where do we go from here onwards? Is that pressure likely to continue, and does that mean that we are likely to see less expansion in gross margins, if at all any?
Well, we don't really talk about the future financials as we speak, but what I can tell you is about inflation. This year, inflation has been reasonably manageable. I think it's been in the range, single digit, maybe 4% kind of range. We did some smart buying as well of commodities, so that helped us. And we do think that even as we go into the next year, the inflation is going to be fairly manageable.
Okay, Varun, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out to speak to us about the outlook for Britannia Industries.